Okay, I'm all raring to go here. I'm quite lubricated on this 420 semi-holiday. So let's get right to it. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Okay, welcome to another week of the Midnight Skeptic. This is show number 65. It'll be broadcast on this coming Sunday, April 24th at the usual time, 9 p.m. or midnight back on the East Coast. Today, as I'm recording this, this is 420, and that has all sorts of implications. And San Francisco is celebrating 420 as marijuana smoke-in day. I myself have not partaken of weed for more than 40 years, although I have. I was never a heavy smoker. Back in the day, I just preferred my beer and wine, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, let me reiterate the introduction to this. The views of this woke Midnight Skeptic are not, although they should be, the views of Petaluma Community Access or any of its affiliates like station KPCA LP 103.3 FM. It's been brought to my attention by station management that I sometimes stray too close to the edge. Edge of what? I'm not quite sure, but edge of reality, edge of propriety. Okay, I'm guilty as charged. Okay? I've not received any emailed complaints or hate mail or death threats lately. It's been actually quite a long time. So if any of you disagree with me, although I don't know why anybody could possibly disagree with me, please send, hate mail, all that kind of stuff to me via themidnightskeptic@gmail.com. As I've said before, I'll get it, and I'll deal with it. And if you have any constructive suggestions of topics that I could talk about, yeah, I'd like to know them, because I'll research things, and I do a lot of research. In fact, this is, on occasion, gets to be kind of like homework. Well, I'm not in college anymore, although it seems on occasion that I've spent half my life in college. But I know how to do research and not just following a Twitter thread. And I want what I say to be accurate. And I assure you that it is. Okay. And I will let you know when it's just my opinion. And I don't have a very high opinion of Republicans, conservatives, MAGA heads, the sheep followers of the cult of the orange sociopathic bloat bag. And you know who I mean by that. And that's my name for him, the previous guy. Okay, enough of that. Shout outs. And I got a couple of new listeners occasionally. In addition to my international listeners from Australia, New Zealand, a few in Ireland, a few in the UK, a few in Germany, and a couple in the Czech Republic. And okay, so Rob Tomaszewski. Hey, if you're listening to this and you indicated to me that you do occasionally, you know, I hope you enjoy it, because I am me, I am who I am, and the Midnight Skeptic, in addition to being always right, hopefully is also entertaining. Okay, and Rob Nasser and Ariana, his wife, he and Ariana are new additions to the, cult of the Midnight Skeptic, I guess you might want to say. Okay, let's see. Also, starting on local people, Nariman. Okay, again, we're going to have a glass of wine one of these afternoons. Tom and Nancy Throw. Tom, we're going to have to go out and have lunch real soon. Tim Conrad. Likewise, you and I are going to have to go to Lagunitas and have another beer one of these afternoons. And I really enjoy your photography. You're a great photographer. And these little blurbs that you write about growing up in Sonora, Tuolumne County, I enjoy them. Keep it up. Okay. Going over to Sebastopol, Rich and Kathy Berger. And down to Pacifica, Stan and Kathy. Over to Tiburon, Dennis and Megan. I've not included Dennis in my shout-outs before, but he is my computer guy, my audio engineer, audio-visual engineer. He's the one who talked me into even putting this stuff out on YouTube, and I didn't know how to do it when he suggested that, so he set all this up. So anyway, and Dennis and Megan are living down in Tiburon together, and he's the IT guy for the Miller Creek School District down in, I guess it's Mill Valley, or it's in Marin County. Okay, I'm not sure what town it's actually associated with. But anyway, further on down south in L.A., Jackie and Wayne Kolar. I missed San Francisco. Yvonne Santos. You listen every now and then. So hello, Yvonne. We're going to have to get together up at in Katati with Lori and Kevin. I'm looking forward to that. And down to Mexico City, Rosie Lopez Negrete. And over to Arizona, my brother Brandon and his wife Mina, and Andrea, his daughter, my niece, who's a nurse down there, and her husband Tim, retired Marine Corps. Booyah! And their three little terrorists, as they call them. I didn't make that up. They called them that. Karina Hilliard in Arizona, in Patagonia. And then over to Arkansas, Shannon Reed. And over to Florida, Amelia in the Edgewater area. And Nelson and Alice Slidell over in Sarasota. Up to North Carolina, Herr Dr. David Rubin, my ex-roommate back in the 70s, and he's retired now, as am I officially. And up to Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger. Okay, I hope you still listen in now and then. I haven't heard from you lately, but anyway, okay, that kind of exhausts the shout-out list. Okay, another sip. I get dry throat very easily. This is 100% grape juice, by the way. Welch's grape juice. I love it. Okay, this Friday, 4/22, is Earth Day. Let's all think of how we can buy and use fewer things that pollute and harm Mother Earth. seriously, we don't need, and I'm a good example of this, we don't need half the crap that we have that's clogging up our houses and our living spaces. We just don't need as much as we think we do. Okay. Don't expect the cult of the orange sociopathic bloat bag to celebrate this day. To them, it should be Extractive Fossil Fuel Industries Day. Yeah, okay. Republicans are not known to be caring about anything, let alone Earth and its beauty and the animals and the people that live on it. They're just an uncaring bunch. Okay. Whew. Okay, continuing the rant. Republicans reject math books that teach math. They reject science books that teach science. And they reject history books that teach real history, which explains, to a certain extent, why their version of Christianity has nothing to do with the Bible. And I'm not a big fan of the Bible, but at least part of it extols us all to care for our fellow man, to be generous, to be kind. Those are the parts that haven't seemed to have worked their way into the psyche of quote-unquote Christians. Okay. New topic. Mommy, what's the color line? Well, my young Republican snowflake, baseball is our wonderful national pastime. And there was a time when black men weren't allowed to play in the same league as white men. And on April 15th of 1947, the first black man was allowed to play baseball with other white men. Okay? Why was this, Mommy? Well, my little MAGA head, white people just know that black men weren't as good as white men. But why did Jackie Robinson have to break that color line? We'll have to repair it. Horrible liberals wanted him to. Honey, I can't talk anymore about this. It's CRT. And we know that liberals want to talk about nothing but CRT and make us feel bad. Okay, enough of that. Okay. 100 years ago, in fact, on January 23rd of 1922, in Kentucky, one of our enlightened states, a bill was introduced in the Kentucky General Assembly, House Bill 191. It was an act to prohibit the teaching in public schools and other public institutions of learning, I guess they mean colleges, Darwinism, atheism, agnosticism, or evolution as it pertains to the origin of man. That's an exact quote from that bill. Has Kentucky changed very much? No, not much. Okay. Please support the National Center for Science Education. This is an organization that's over in Oakland, just across the bay from Petaluma here. And it's at 230 Grand Avenue, Suite number 101, Oakland, 94610. Include Well, okay. Contribute what you can to this good organization of thinking, scientific people that fight against ignorance in our schools and try to encourage lower grades and middle school science teachers to keep up the good fight. Okay, so if you're going to donate something, include in your $1 million check a short note that the Midnight Skeptic moved you to do this. There are still plenty of anti evolution God screamers among us, among us rational people. Okay, I almost misread this as national people. My handwriting strikes again. Okay, they are in the GOP, MAGA head conservative base, and under the sway of the Southern Baptists and Pentecostals. Those are the ones that claim that teachers are indoctrinating our kids to not believe in God or Jesus, and they're for evolution and that godless theory. Ah, geez. Okay, another sip. Ranting really dries out the throat. Okay. Lana Theis. Okay, I'll spell her last name, capital Theis. She's a Republican from in the Michigan State Senate, and she was the pro tem for a while. Maybe she still is. I don't know. But she was accusing State Senator Mallory McMorrow of, quote unquote, grooming. This is now one of the far right's favorite talking point words. Theis, in an email, or, okay, maybe it was a Twitter post. Okay, to that I'm not sure. It was either email or Twitter. She didn't say this out loud, especially not to Mallory McMorrow's face. They're all essentially cowards, Republicans. Okay, Theis, in an email soliciting campaign contributions, accused McMorrow of grooming children and sexualizing them. In an attempt to marginalize, I ignored my quote marks here. She accused McMorrow of, quote, grooming children and sexualizing them, unquote. And that was an attempt, and this is what McMorrow is saying, in an attempt to marginalize me for standing up to her for marginalizing the LGBTQ community. Hate wins when people like me stand by, is what Mallory McMorrow said. If you feel like it, and I hope you do, I would Google Mallory McMorrow, and she gave a 6 or 7 minute speech, which is available on YouTube, in answering this horrible accusation from Lana Theis. And it's very moving, and it's a perfect comeback to the MAGA head creeps that toss this word around. Okay, and the November elections of this year, 2022, it's coming up, and you are going to hear that word tossed around by stupid conservative MAGA head Republicans. Grooming. They're grooming. They're grooming. Oh. I've said on other shows, when this topic of don't say gay in Florida especially, that suppose a gay woman teacher or lesbian, whichever she identifies herself as, has a picture of another woman on her desk, just like straight teachers sometimes have pictures of their husbands or wives and kids and family on their desk. Okay, and suppose this gay teacher, female teacher, says, in response to a kid that asks her, who's this lady's picture on your desk, Mrs. Brown? And if Mrs. Brown answers, well, she's my girlfriend, or she's my fiancée, or we plan to get married this summer over the break, that's not sexualizing kids. It's just answering a question and kind of normalizing gay relationships. And it shouldn't have to be normalized. And it is not grooming. It's not sexualizing. That's just dirt that clogs up the minds of Republican politicians that are trolling for votes by using fear and hatred. Okay, all right, enough of that. That was, again, Mallory McMorrow. Last name is spelled MC, capital Morrow. And she's from Michigan, and she's in the state Senate. But, please listen to it. It's really, it will be worth your time. And then the last thing that Senator Mallory McMorrow said, she ended her speech with, hate wins when people like me stand by and let it happen. I won't. Here. Okay. Another topic. Here's a quote from Jess Piper, an American literature teacher. And I ran across this online, and it just resonated with me, so I'm including it here so you guys can hear what Jess Piper had to say about this book banning stuff that Republicans are all for. Okay, quote, banning history books, banning literature, banning math texts. Hello, Florida. Schools running 4-day weeks. This is starting to feel like Republicans want children undereducated on purpose. Do they want a populace who doesn't question anything because they don't know how? I mean, this is how it's done in countries and societies that are authoritarianly run by creeps such as the orange sociopathic float bag. Okay, so here for Jess Piper. Okay. Oh boy. I want to reiterate to my listeners and watchers out there that I hate being angry, and even though I might sound like I'm angry occasionally, well, actually a lot, if you just go by this show, I'm not angry, and I don't like being angry. I like to laugh a lot, and I go by a saying from the Dalai Lama: anger is the... Oh, gosh. Oh, okay. I remember it now. Semi-brain freeze. Okay. Anger is the ultimate destroyer of your own peace of mind. Okay. Before I read that quote, and that goes back about 10 years, I really, really tried not to get angry ever about anything. And when I read that quote from the Dalai Lama. I had to copy it down because he articulated my feelings perfectly. Okay, another more recent quote from the Dalai Lama: "Choose to be optimistic. It feels better." He's absolutely right. Okay. Okay, I'm off my notes again. Where am I? Oh, okay. Arizona again. Arizona, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and Arkansas. Okay. There's other states besides those five, but Oklahoma. They are just ridiculous states that are run by Republicans. Okay. I'm riffing. I'm off my notes. Okay. Arizona. Anti-teacher bill by Republican Steve Kaiser of Phoenix. It's House Bill 2161. Expands Arizona's Parents' Bill of Rights. Originally, it was passed, an earlier version of Parents' Bill of Rights law, originally passed in 2010, by allowing parents to sue any teacher that, and here's a quote from the bill, interferes with or usurps the fundamental right of parents to direct the upbringing, education, health care, and mental health care of their children, unquote. The bill further dictates that parents have access to all records concerning their academic performance. Isn't that a report card? And their physical and mental health, including counseling and psychological records. Okay. Representative John Fillmore is a Republican from Apache Junction, said, quote, "This bill just underscores that the parents have the ultimate responsibility for teaching a lot of what their children should be thinking about on a lot of moral, my handwriting, I mistook it for normal. Okay. What their children should be thinking about on a lot of moral, ideological, or spiritual items." He goes on, "Teachers have forgotten they're there to teach." Okay. Teachers feel now that they're supposed to be psychologists and psychiatrists. Children are not the property of the state or of the teachers. Well, I have some thoughts about this. Children are not property of anybody or anything, not even their parents. They have been brought into this world by the mom and dad to raise up to be thinking, mentally healthy, loving, kind children. And if they're so afraid that the children will have something going on in their lives that they're afraid to tell their parents about, that's on the parents. That's not the kids, and it's not the teacher's fault. As a private tutor for in excess of 30 years, I did this in the afternoon in addition to my other jobs. There were a number of kids, not many, but some, that confided in me things that were going on in their lives that I know they didn't tell their parents. And I respect the kids by not going to their parents about it. unless, and I never ran across this, unless they were in danger of harming themselves in some way. In that case, I would bring their parents into it, but it never came to that. Okay, enough of that. I'm off my notes again. Teachers feel now that they're supposed to be psychologists and psychiatrists. This John Fillmore, Republican, is saying, well, teachers should be open to having their kids tell them things and feel free to confide in them. And this bill, as interpreted by Republicans, say that kids have to be outed if they confide to their teacher that they may have gay feelings, or they don't feel like their mental makeup coincides with their physical makeup, meaning transgender. This bill will require the teacher to inform the parents. I am totally against that. All right. I'm off my notes yet again. Okay, on Monday, wait a minute, what would that be? That would be the 18th. Okay. The Arizona Senate passed the bill, and it will end up on Governor Doug Ducey's desk very soon, and he will sign it. Okay, the bill was actually written for Arizona GOP MAGA-head politicians by, and get this, the Center for Arizona Policy. Well, what is that nebulous organization? It's a far-right group of conservative and religious zealots. Their messaging, given to and used by GOP MAGA-head politicians, turns religious bigotry into religious liberty, and rabid anti-abortion positions into a concern for women's health. Lying and hypocrisy. That is the new GOP. Okay, here's just a little blurb. Okay, CFI, and I've said on previous shows what CFI is. It's the Center for Inquiry, which is the parent organization for, skeptics. I don't want to go into exactly what they're the umbrella organization for, but they're the skeptics organization, of which I am a member. Okay, they're now launching their Office of Consumer Protection from Pseudoscience. OCPP is what that doesn't. It's not an acronym because it didn't pronounces anything, but Office of Consumer Protection from Pseudoscience. CFI's Director of Legal Services, Nick Little, is the organizer of this. Right now, CFI is in the midst of a lawsuit against both Walmart and what's the drugstore? CVS, for their deceptive selling practices. What they do is they shelve homeopathic remedies, which are useless, right next to actual medicines. As a matter of fact, Walmart makes its own house brand of homeopathic medicines, which essentially are just little bottles of water. Okay, this is a new thing. Okay, the next generation science standards for middle schools. That was the topic that I was going to talk about, and I neglected to finish researching this to find out exactly what next generation science is, Republicans seem to be against it, so it's probably something I would be for. Public schools are struggling to meet the standards, and there is a shortage of qualified science educators in the lower grades and in middle school. Probably high school also. Depends on what you call science educators qualified. But anyway, the director of that aspect of CFI, her name is Bertha Vasquez, and she's a science teacher down in Florida. Be careful, Bertha. But anyway, and she's the director of education for CFI, in addition to being an actual science teacher in a high school. Now, I'm not going to say anything more about this because I haven't finished researching it. I wanted to get this broadcast out today, 4/20. That's mainly why I wanted to do it today. But, okay. Whew. Ranting really dries the throat. You can quote me on that. Okay, got plenty of time. Okay, here's a quote from Elie Mystal, Mystal. He's a lawyer, and I see him occasionally, and I really like him. He gets energetic when he's interviewed by one of the MSNBC hosts. But anyway, here's a quote. Republicans, I think, at some psychological level, understand that their positions are abhorrent. They're against helping the poor. They're against helping anybody. So they ratchet up these alleged moral issues to make themselves feel better about the violence, abhorrence, and deplorability of their platform. And then, okay, that's the end of his quote, but I've got to remind you that in the 2020 election, the Republican Party didn't have a platform. Every 4 years when we have a presidential election, both the Democrats and the Republicans come out with their party platform of the issues that they are for, what they will try to get through our government should they win the election. But in 2020, the only thing the Republicans were for was just getting the orange sociopathic bloat bag back into the presidency, which didn't work and which is still going on today, believe it or not. Well, you got to believe it because it's happening. There's some diehards, Republican stupid conservative MAGA heads that are still trying to overturn the 2020 election. All right. Okay, new topic. The MAGA head conservative cult of the orange sociopathic bloat bag claims that teachers are indoctrinating kids into woke culture. Okay, I'm woke and I'm proud of it. Okay, MAGA heads use that term, woke, pejoratively. In case any stupid-ass MAGA heads are listening to this, maybe I should explain what pejoratively means. It means insincere and performative activism. It's not. To me, and here I'm going to explain my feelings about it. To me, wokeness and progressivism and liberalism is, in one word, acceptance. Ooh. Acceptance that life is not static, life can change, and you needn't fear change, like Republicans do fear change. It's acceptance that people should be able to be themselves, that government should help people who need help in their lives. It's acceptance that kids should be encouraged to love and appreciate all other kids, even those who are somewhat different than them. It's acceptance that no one should bully anyone else, physically or with words or action. It's acceptance that the earth and everything on it is our home. By our, I mean all living things. All living things on earth have a right to be here, to live out their lives, however long it is, however short it is. Okay, if teachers can, quote unquote, indoctrinate their students into this kind of wokeness, I guarantee none of their students will ever grow up to be Republicans or to be part of the orange sociopathic bloat bag cult. Okay? There, I said it. Republicans are not kind and loving nowadays. The classic Republicans, and by classic, I'm talking about in the early part of my lifetime, because and I'm not guilty about saying this, I am still a registered Republican. There was a time when they were essentially kind and accepting and willing to use the government to actually help people. Not anymore. More grape juice. Okay. Another topic. The rabid GOPers are angry with Willie Nelson for being a major liberal activist and the co-chair of the advisory board of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, or NORML, NORML. I've got news for the stupid-ass MAGA heads. He's always been a kind and generous man. In short, liberal. That's why they can't stand Willie. He's too accepting. And he wears his hair long. We can't have that. What is he, a hippie? Okay. Also, the rabid GOPers are trying to boycott Disney World because of all the mishigas that's going on down in Florida. The Disney executives finally came out against the Don't Say Gay bill. And don't send me any hate mail. I realize that the actual bill does not say don't say gay. It's a admonition. Well, not an admonition, but the bill prohibits the teaching or instruction about LGBTQ issues or transgenderism. That's how they phrase it. And it's a completely false thing for the Republican base to get all knotted up in their underwear about. No teachers teach that. Okay. But that doesn't stop the Republicans from ginning up fear and hate. Okay. In addition to Willie Nelson. Okay. Where did I get off my notes? Okay. Also, the rabid GOPers are trying to boycott Disney World and trying to encourage their sheep followers to go instead to Dollywood. Well, I've got some more news for them. Dolly Parton herself has always been quite liberal, loving everyone, being kind and extremely generous. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. Sorry. In fact, all the employees in Dollywood, their upper education, meaning college or community college, will be paid for by the proceeds of Dollywood, and it's so they won't be saddled with student debt after they get out of college, and that's even applies to part-time and seasonal workers at Dollywood. They'd better pick somebody else to get all worked up about. Okay. Do the MAGA head cultists even realize that thinking people who are loving and kind and generous are all liberal? Call us libtards if you will, but liberals are mostly happy and loving people, not the fearful, full of hate MAGA head cultists. I've been called a libtard. It doesn't actually bother me. It wasn't worth getting in a fight over. Okay. I've run out of my notes. Okay. But I have articles here. Okay, in the New York Times, there was an article. In fact, it was a whole page, and I'm not going to read it all. I'm going to read excerpts of it on the next Midnight Skeptic show next week. But here's a teaser, so to speak. As Western leaders introduced sanctions against Russia for the invasion of Ukraine, Tucker the Creep, the Fox News host, said seizing personal property from Russian oligarchs went too far. And this is a quote: "No American government had ever done anything like that before," he said. While the segment was aimed at Fox News' conservative audience, it found another audience in Russia. The argument was parroted beat by beat by RIA Novus. Okay, wait a minute. No, this is Novistia. RIA Novistia. Okay, this is the New York Times fault, not mine. They broke the word up with a hyphen in the wrong place. Okay. The argument was parroted beat by beat by RIA Novistia, a Russian state news agency, which wrote that, quote, "The average U.S. citizen is simply horrified by what is happening," unquote. Well, we are horrified by what's happening over there, but not for the reasons that Tucker the Creep would say. Okay. The narratives advanced by the Kremlin and by parts of conservative American media have converged in recent months, reinforcing and feeding each other. Along the way, Russian media has increasingly seized on Fox News's primetime segments. Its opinion pieces and even the network's active online comments section, all of which find fault with the Biden administration. Well, that's all they're about, is just finding fault with Biden. Okay. To paint a critical portrait of the United States and depict America's foreign policy as a threat to Russia's interests. Okay, okay, Sergei Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, who has made several false claims about the war, including that Russia never attacked Ukraine. He's almost as good a liar as the MAGA head cult of the orange sociopathic bloat bag. That's their stock and trade, lying to their base. Okay, and he singled out Fox News for praise last month. Okay, I'm going to have more about this on next week's Midnight Skeptic show. Okay, how Russia uses Fox News. Okay, here's an article from the New York Times about, I'm not going to read this article because I went into it a little bit. Florida rejects scores of math textbooks citing, quote unquote, prohibited topics. Well, what do you imagine those prohibited topics are? The big one is CRT, or any mention of any LGBTQ person or kid or what have you. Okay, I'll put that in the recycled paper bin. Okay. I'm going to try to end on good news, and this is environmental news. Something that I haven't really talked about a lot lately, but we're running out of time to really mitigate the effects of increasing levels of CO2 in the atmosphere. And I should really talk more about that, except that it's hard for me to tease out the good news. Another sip. But here's a bit of good news. Okay, I got a few minutes here. This is out of the San Francisco Chronicle today. Cities and counties can sue oil giants. Local governments in California can proceed in state court with lawsuits against major oil companies for contributing to climate change by selling fossil fuel products and allegedly deceiving the public about their harmful effects. A federal appeals court ruled Tuesday. Now, I've talked about this particular issue, and it's been a while, like more than 2 years, but ExxonMobil, back in the late 60s, early 70s, realized from their own scientists that the burning of all the fossil fuels, cars, planes, heaters, and power plants would release excessive amounts of CO2 that were raising the overall global temperature. Okay, they knew this, but they could either devote some of their monies, profits, etc., from what they were doing, advertising their products, to trying to mitigate this global warming caused by their CO2. Okay, they chose to spend their money, their profits, on lobbyists to prevent laws from being passed that would either cut off subsidies or prohibit a certain amount of burning of these fossil fuels. That's what they concentrated their excess profits on. Okay, they could have chosen the other path, but they didn't. The concept of profits won out. Okay. The lawsuits filed in 2017, I think, I talked about this in 2019. Okay. The suits filed in 2017 seek substantial damages from more than 30 companies that profit from products contributing to rises in temperature and sea levels, which the cities and counties say are forcing them to spend more on seawalls and other protections. The plaintiffs are San Mateo County, Marin County, Santa Cruz counties, and the cities of Richmond, Santa Cruz, and Imperial Beach, which is down in San Diego County. The local governments sued in state court under California's law allowing damages for a quote-unquote public nuisance, private actions that harm the public health, which this does. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole article, but I will summarize it again in the next show. And okay, it's 56, so here's my play out music. I hope you enjoyed this episode. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Okay, that does it for another week. I will see you guys again next week. I'll probably record the next show on the 27th, which is Wednesday, next Wednesday. I'm going to be tutoring one of my students on Thursday. And, yeah, like I say, I hope you enjoyed this. And the YouTubers, I'm going to try to get this out by tonight. And KPCA, I'm going to send it in to you. And it's going to be broadcast this coming Sunday, the 24th, at 9 p.m. So, doing this kind of tires me out. Well, okay. But I like to remain humorous, and like I say, I like to laugh. So, goodbye. Oh, yeah, geez. I forgot to click stop recording. So the YouTube people will all see this stuff.